Philadelphia's most violent kingpin was just removed from federal death row by outgoing President Biden.
President Biden commuted the sentences of 37 to 40 federal death row inmates to life in prison without the chance of parole.
And that includes Philadelphia's Kabani Savage, who was on death row for 12 murders, including ordering a firebombing that killed 2 adults and 4 children.
Kabani Savage is his name, and he was convicted in the 2000s of ordering 12 homicides and committing several more himself. His infamy comes from the fact that 6 of his homicide victims were the family members of a witness against him.
Jurors unanimously approved the sentence for Savage last week. They had convicted the 38-year-old former boxer turned drug kingpin for the murders of 12 people, 6 of whom died in a firebombing he had ordered from prison.
15-month-old baby, a 10-year-old girl, a 12 and 15-year-old boys, and their 54-year-old grandmother. He ordered this hit from federal detention. And after being put on the federal execution list and sitting there for almost 20 years, he will now simply serve out a life term. President Biden said he believes America must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level, except in the case of terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder, and the 3 death row inmates that remain, he says, fit that category. So what goes on behind the scenes to get anybody pardoned is always interesting. And what's interesting about the Kabani Savage case, especially, is its ties to Philadelphia's crime and corruption from 50, 60 years ago, the infamous Philly Black Mafia, who had their own scandalous convictions involving the homicides of multiple kids, when a group of gangsters associated with Nation of Islam Temple number 12 in Philly were convicted of drowning 4, ranging from 9 days to 10 years old, and SHOT 3 more, in a home that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar owned.
Yet the quiet was shattered here at a house once owned by basketball star Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, previously known as Lou Sindor. Police ambulances shuttled back and forth, taking away the bodies, 7 in all. 5 children ranging in age from 9 days to 11 years, and 2 adults. 4 of the children were drowned, the others shot in what may have been a feud between warring Muslim sects.
Multiple Philly Black Mafia members were convicted of murdering 7 women and small children. The victims were Sunni Muslims, whose leader was an outspoken critic of Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam.
It's been the most heinous crime that I've witnessed in my 19 years on the police department.
Basketball star Abdul-Jabbar discounted a religious war theory for the murder of his friends. "I can only suspect lunatics," he said.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a Sunni Muslim, a regular Muslim in the eyes of some, a real Muslim versus some people say the Nation of Islam is not even Islam, but I'll leave that to others to discuss. But the Hanafi Muslims their leader had made some very anti-Elijah Muhammad statements, and then this incident occurred.
We hate ourselves.
That's right.
Because of the teaching and the training of our slave masters.
Yes, sir.
Who put one of us against the other.
Ron Harvey, one of the most famous faces of the Philly Black Mafia, was convicted in the Hanafi incident, and he also was charged in the infamous Major Coxon killings. Now, how did this get linked to Kabani Savage? Well, in 2004, the FBI was investigating Savage, who was for a city the size of Philly, he wasn't quite a kingpin, but he had a big operation going, focusing on coke and P.C.P, which is big in Philly, and there was a lot of violence associated with this case, and that's why the FBI got involved. In fact, Savage gunned down a guy on the corner of the block of a rival dealer, specifically to bring police heat to the block. And then there was a witness going to be against him, and that guy got taken out the day before he was to testify. Kabani was in custody, so he was ordering these things from custody. Now the wiretaps in Kabani Savage's case picked up the voice of a guy named Shamsud-Din Ali, talking to dealers about taking money to protect them politically and claiming that he was tied in with Philadelphia's black mayor, John Street. The FBI then used overhearing that stuff in the Kabani Savage case to put a bug in Mayor Street's office. Now, John Street never said anything in his office while it was bugged that allowed him to be indicted. He finished out his term, and there was a cloud of scandal, but he was never charged with anything, and he's currently working as a professor after serving 2 terms in the mayor's office. So who was Shamsud-Din Ali? Well, he had been the imam of Temple Number 12, the infamous gangster temple that Ron Harvey and Sam Christian and all the other, or many of the other Philly Black Mafia guys were a member of, which was run under the feared Jeremiah Shabazz. Jeremiah Shabazz was forced to step down during that whole scandalous time when the Hanafi homicides occur, and Shamsud-Din Ali, who was known as Clarence Fowler, he became the imam of Temple Number 12 after Jeremiah Shabazz. So he's the one who took over after all the different scandals. And Fowler, a.k.a. Shamsud-Din Ali, had been convicted in 1970 of a homicide, and he did a few years in prison, but his conviction was overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They were going to send him to a retrial, but the key witness refused to once again testify like he'd done in the first place. Prosecutors claim it was because of pressures from the Philly Black Mafia. Who knows, maybe he was innocent. But if you watch my documentary, White Powder, Black Power, Courtney Brown of Detroit talks about how his
call it a long night, maybe a party that went way, way too out of control. But Eddie and 5-0 decided to go to New York. They go to New York, they see the Connect. When he pops the trunk, he finds the contraband. He finds the 11 bricks of heroin, the 3 bricks of cocaine. But now Eddie's got a double problem. So he's already under federal indictment for the major conspiracy case, which everybody went down on. And now he has a new case, a possession case in Pennsylvania. Well, there was a judge running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that our attorneys or their attorneys knew. Milton told Eddie, if you made a sizable contribution to this gentleman's campaign and he was to win, he guarantees us that your case will get heard by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Eddie gives my old man, I believe it was $30,000, $40,000, which he donated to this judge's campaign. That said judge won his election to become a judge on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Eddie's case went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and it was dismissed due to an illegal search and seizure. Wow. True story.
Eddie Jackson's case was thrown out right in the same time when Fowler's case was thrown out for illegal search and seizure by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So I know for a fact that Eddie Jackson's case was thrown out due to corruption. I don't know that Shamsud-Din Ali's was, but same era. And that's while he was in prison, he changed his name from Clarence Fowler to Shamsud-Din Ali, and he was influential with the Muslim population in Holmesburg Prison in Pennsylvania. So immediately following his 1976 release from prison, and he becomes the imam when Jeremiah Shabazz is demoted, informants describe him as continuing and taking over the Black Mafia extortion racket, which he wasn't indicted for.